Hey, what's going on, everybody? Storm Team 4 Chief Meteorologist Brian Niznansky. This is Niz Weather Wizdom. Today is March 4th. We're getting into spring, guys. It is roughly 10:30 a.m., so if you happen to watch this later on, again, keep in mind this is March 3rd at 10 a.m. This is Niz Weather Wizdom. Thank you for joining today. We have a ton to talk about. I want to get right to it, but first off, thanks for joining on Facebook. Thanks again for joining on YouTube. If you happen to be watching this on YouTube, please hit subscribe below. We're getting there. I think we're up to like 170 subscribers. It's tough to get, people to commit, but I do want to continue that effort because I know there are people on all different platforms, and I want to be able to expand my reach here. So I really appreciate it. If you have a question, if you have a comment, please fire away. We'll address those questions and comments live. And if it's later on in the afternoon, we can address them. If you're watching this taped, I'll come back and check and see if I can answer any of those questions in the comment section as well. Just let me know how your day's going. Let me know if you have any concerns. The title of this Niz Weather Wizdom is a warm surge and some severe storm potential. Now, please listen to the word potential. By no means am I saying here in southern Wisconsin it is a guarantee that we are going to get severe storms. But the time frame we're looking at is Friday into Friday night. And it all depends on the first part of this equation, that warm surge. Will we, in fact, see that surge of warm air? I had a post earlier this week that got some pretty good traction. And I mentioned the potential for our first 70 in southern Wisconsin. And I'm still holding to it. I'm not saying it's a slam dunk, but from what I'm seeing is our first potential to get that enough of a stream of warmth to come in from the south to give us that 70-degree potential. It's going to be really tough if you're close to Lake Michigan, but I'm thinking the best chance, obviously, down towards Beloit, Janesville with that best chance. So let's get right to it. I got so much to talk about here. So first off, as we look at the current picture, the radar across the Midwest, they had severe storms across Illinois last night. Now we're seeing storms more southern Illinois into Missouri, Springfield area getting hit pretty good. Nothing too terrible at the moment. Let me dive in a little closer to some of this stuff. You can see that activity to the north of Paducah heading into far extreme southern Indiana, the Evansville area. That's got some pretty good reflectivity to it. Carbondale went through maybe some at least small hail with that. Nothing too crazy at this moment. But if you happen to be, of course, watching down that neck of the woods, I know it's a long shot, but if you are, let me know the weather that you're seeing. Let's look into the future. We're going to step through a couple different computer models. We're going to really eventually focus in on Friday's potential. But first, let's start things off with the HER computer model. And let's go through time here. So let me back that thing up. All right, the HER doing a pretty good job initializing where things currently are. It's a little behind, it looks like to me, but doing a decent job overall with the locations. Now, as we go through the day today, severe storms far southeastern Missouri, Ozark regions, eventually Kentucky, over towards southern Ohio. And then things refire up again across Missouri late tonight into tomorrow. Then this system kind of phases out. Then we'll start to focus our attention out west. And by tomorrow night, as we follow the time, let me make sure this is lining up well on my screen. Yeah, okay, things are looking good. Now, tomorrow night, look at those storms fire up down towards Oklahoma City. Right? Boom. Wichita eventually Kansas City. That looks like a pretty good Boeing line that comes through for you. Maybe some straight line wind threats. Here in southern Wisconsin, we might get clipped with a little light shower activity as we rewind through tonight and into tomorrow, but it really does not look like much rain for us now tomorrow here in southern Wisconsin. Our main rain event will be on Friday with some storm potential. Okay, this is as far as the HER computer model goes out. So let's switch over to the graph. And the graph is another short range model. It's an in-house model. It doesn't do, I think, in general quite as well, but it goes a little farther out. So again, storms across Missouri today, tonight, eventually this system to the Ohio Valley, losing any severe threats to it. And then here comes those storms firing up around Oklahoma City. Pretty good consensus there, right? Thursday evening, storms firing up around Oklahoma City, eventually close to Wichita, eventually into Kansas City, and then into Iowa. All right, so if this batch holds together, which I do think it will, I don't think it will have its severe punch to it, but that will eventually push into southern Wisconsin, looks like late morning, midday. Now, for us here in southern Wisconsin, this right here is our biggest question, I think. This is, we get that first round on Friday. Will we get enough of a break in the afternoon to eventually allow the surge of warm air, which I'm going to outline in a second, to really juice up the atmosphere for storms Friday evening? That there is our key on Friday. How soon that warm air can surge in? Will there be enough time before the storms arrive for us to warm up? And that will be the defining factor for us. So, unfortunately, the graph doesn't go out far enough to show that here. So let's switch over to the European computer model. Now, this isn't going to be great. I can tell you already that these longer range models don't have nearly the precision and detail of things. They kind of overdo things, kind of spread things out with convection. So just kind of follow along with my analysis. Okay, here's Friday, midday. It's a little later. That would be good news for severe weather. It would basically wipe out our chance of severe weather. And then that break happens like 6, 7 o'clock before filling in during the early morning hours on Saturday. That would be really hard for us to get severe weather. Again, don't look at the intensity. Just kind of look at the bigger blobs in the break. Notice if you follow the time that break happens in the evening, that will minimize the warm surge. I think we'll still get a warm surge, but we don't have any heating of the sun to really juice things up. And then more storms arriving late night, early Saturday morning. This scenario, I think, brings a minimal severe threat to southern Wisconsin. But 3 days out, we really can't focus on specific timing. We just have to kind of look at the ingredients that are dealt for potential. And with that said, one of the big ingredients for Friday, obviously we got to get into the warm sector of that area of low pressure. But what I want to see also, another big factor for our storms, I think damaging straight line winds are the primary threat. And with that, it's because we're going to have a strong jet stream overhead. Let's look at that jet stream. Notice today, yeah, there's pretty decent jet over southern Wisconsin, down towards St. Louis where there's more storms. There's really nothing at the surface for that jet to grab. So I'm not really concerned about the jet today for us. But look what starts happening on Thursday. In general, the jet stream creeps in a little bit more. It intensifies Friday. And there you go. You got a pretty good jet streak across the Midwest. But the center of that jet is to the north. What is more relevant is what's considered the low-level jet. So what piece of this original jet stream energy works its way down into the lower levels low enough that thunderstorms can actually grab that wind easier and bring it down to the surface? So let's switch over to low-level jet, and you're going to see that low-level jet, unless things have changed since the last time I looked, centers itself right over. So we're focusing on Friday again. I know there's storms ongoing across the Midwest today and tomorrow, but let's focus Friday. Notice how that low-level jet Friday night, I mean, look where the bullseye is pretty much. Southern Wisconsin. Now, I do think overall the greatest severe threat on Friday night will be down towards Kansas City. And that's because of a number of other factors. You know, obviously way more instability, way more warmth and stuff like that. But as far as grabbing wind from above, which is going to be our probably big forcing, that's something to watch according to this model of the jet stream. So let's go through the SBC. Let's go through the SBC, the Storm Prediction Center's bullseyes and marks for severe weather. Today, again, as we just saw on the radar and the modeling, it's all across Missouri, southern Illinois, eventually over towards Indiana. Tomorrow, that severe threat. As I load up here, farther south even. Like, remember the storms that I showed you on the models fire up around Oklahoma City, work their way towards Wichita, maybe keep enough punch that, you know, there's a marginal level 1-5 risk for Kansas City into Iowa. Now let's focus on Friday, which is our first chance for severe weather in southern Wisconsin. And probably the greatest risk overall. I mean, look at, you got a level 3 of 5 for storms that fire up down towards Kansas City. There's your bullseye. For us in southern Wisconsin, we're on the fringe of a level 2 of 5, a slight risk for widespread severe weather. And we've had big severe weather with level 2 of 5. Not saying it completely pans out, but this will completely depend on that surge of warm air. Again, I'm going to try to get to any questions here once I'm all done and we can address them live. So please fire them away. That would be awesome. And then, you know, that way we can, you know, keep the discussion going once I'm all wrapped up here. Don't know what I just did. Let me, don't know why that went way up there. Sorry, I got my whole platform here got flipped on me. There we go. Back to normal. New severe warning, by the way, in southern Indiana, looks like. Okay, so that outlines the storm threats. We'll get to any questions with that. But then I also wanted to just, as I've been talking and in the title, I've been mentioning this surge of warm air. And as I mentioned before, I made a post earlier this week where I'm sure some of my colleagues and across the street, like, oh, I can't believe he's saying that. I'm not saying it's guaranteed, but I think there is enough of a chance, and I mentioned this before, things would have to line up, that we get our first 70 in Wisconsin Friday. Now, does that mean Milwaukee's going to get a 70? No, I think we're too close to the lake. I'm thinking far southern Wisconsin. And that was the post. Southern Wisconsin gets the first 70. So let's look at what the models are doing. Let's look at the GFS model here. Longer range. We can't really go that far out with the HER yet. And this will, as we're watching this, we'll go through time. I just want to center things up a little bit before I get going. There, that should do it. Perfect. All right, so we'll look at the state level first. And I'll scrub through time. Today, some 50s inland. Milwaukee's still going to be stuck in the 40s. Tomorrow, probably everybody like 40s for the most part. And then let's focus on Friday. So Friday, we start to get some mild air, but most of the day Friday, we are going to be in the 40s to 50s in Milwaukee due to the lake breeze. So even if you see on the 7-day 60s, that's not going to come until later. But look at Platteville by 519. Look at Chicago by 519, 72 degrees. We still have an influence of the lake, 52. Madison, 63. Eventually, looks like late at night. Now, this coincides with that later warm surge and break in the action. It's not until like midnight, early Saturday morning that we finally crack the 60s in Milwaukee, which to me, again, that scenario really minimizes our severe threat. Let's take a closer look. But hey, we get 60, but it's probably when most of you are sleeping. But again, far southwestern Wisconsin and south central Wisconsin have that 70 potential still. In fact, let's take a little closer look here. Southeastern Wisconsin view today into tomorrow, stuck in the 40s, 30s, 40s tomorrow. Cooler day. Watch what happens though. Friday. Look at even Friday by noon. 45 in Milwaukee, 60 out in Monroe. So not even warm yet. But again, 7 day, you're probably going to see 60s on the 7 day, but that's going to come later on. You'll see what I mean. 5 o'clock. There we go. Milwaukee 52, Burlington 60, Janesville 70. So let me just say right now that the models are starting to come on board with 70, you're going to see a lot of more people on the social medias posting 70 potential on Friday. Because most of them will just chase individual model runs. And now we got some individual model runs with raw data showing 70. So when I mentioned it a few days ago, without really even looking at raw model data, just seeing the upper level scenario, now it's starting to come to fruition on the models. And if you go back and look at one of my posts on that, you'll see a lot of people, I'm not seeing 70 anywhere. Well, I can guarantee those people were just looking at the models that are now showing 70. So not saying it's for sure going to happen, but it's starting to look more likely that South Central Wisconsin briefly gets to 70 or very, very close to it Friday evening. Look at us in Milwaukee. As I mentioned before, that southwest wind doesn't really kick in and gives us 60s late Friday night into Saturday. So Saturday morning. So that diminishes the severe threat because you can see that warmth isn't as much. It's 61 in Milwaukee. Does it wipe it out completely? No. All right, there's my high horse. We can go back to some of these maps, but I wanted to answer any questions that may have come down. Dave says, Niz Weather Wizdom. I love it. Thanks. Yeah, I don't know. I'm still trying to find the right branding with some of this stuff. I'm no social media expert. I'm no YouTuber. But speaking of YouTube, if you are watching on YouTube, hit subscribe. If you're on Facebook, find me, Niz Weather Wizdom, or just Brian Niz on YouTube. You can find my page and hit subscribe below. Cindy says, thank you. Jeffrey says, thank you, Brian Isnansky. Sarah says, hello. Hey, Sarah. No, I appreciate it. Thank you guys for joining. Nick says, got my NOAA weather radio all set and ready for Friday. Good call, Nick. Again, southern Wisconsin, that threat is very marginal to slight, but it's enough of a chance. Got to get that surge of warm air in a little bit sooner. That could spice up the atmosphere. Daughters in the severe storms. Oh, looks like I'm back. Connection was lost. Cindy's wondering, the daughter's flying into Chicago, 6 p.m. on Friday. I assume Friday. Is she going to have issues, delay a connection? I don't think so. I think you'll be fine. I think you find a window there of dry weather if you're talking about Friday. I don't see anything prior to that. Oh, Cindy says on Friday. Yep. I have to work in Grafton. Sarah says all day Saturday. Temperature in Grafton on Saturday. Any precipitation? Showers in the morning, Sarah. Severe stuff should be over with. Kind of a tricky day to predict on Saturday too. I think you'll see 60s on the 7 day, but that's going to be early morning, whereas we'll fall into the 50s and maybe even 40s by Saturday afternoon. Nick wants to know, with the warm surge, how are the dew points looking? That's a really great question, Nick. I seen, based on that same GFS model, I've seen some 50s getting close to 60 for a dew point, which this time of year is pretty moist. come summertime, when we don't have nearly the other dynamics, we depend on even higher dew points. But these spring scenarios, these really early spring scenarios, thrive on synoptic forcing of big areas of low pressure, jet energy. They don't nearly depend on as much instability as in the summertime when you just don't have those triggers as much. Michael says, any tornadoes threat? Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying there will be a tornado, but yeah, that is on the table. There's enough shear in the atmosphere. We're going to have a spinning area of low pressure to the northwest of us. Yeah, that's certainly something that we will be watching for sure. So great questions, guys. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Stay up with the forecast. Going to be an interesting end of the week.